Hello everyone, welcome to another edition of Art of the Bay Sessions. Before we get started, make sure to hit that subscribe button to catch future episodes. Now let's jump into the interview. Thanks again.
And welcome back to another episode of Art of the Bay Sessions. We are joined in studio somewhat with our good friend Sean. How's it going, dude?
What up, man? How's it going? Thanks for having me on. Really excited.
Yeah, dude, I am pumped because, of course, this is going to be like an improv roller coaster here that we're going to go on where we're going to be celebrating your release of your new album here. Again, this is our first time doing something like this, so we're going to be going off the walls, and who knows where we're going to land at this point.
You know, it was kind of hard to set this up. Luckily, I know somebody involved here, so
you know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody at this point.
Hey, give me 1 second. I just got to let my cat out of the room, otherwise she's going to meow her head off. One second.
No worries.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah, that happened right in the intro, right?
I mean, that's what I'm saying. If that doesn't get more authentic when it comes to just the freestyle of it, I don't know what. So
this is the way. This is the new world we live in.
Yeah.
Everybody else wants to go back to the normal. I like this. I like the chaos of home life and trying to navigate this whole technical stuff. It's great.
And
it's not horrible at all.
Yeah. And I was going to say this listen party is for everybody, for cats, dogs, humans, everybody. So
well, actually, it's only for cats.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Did I not mention that? That was part of the deal. It was in the contract. You signed it.
I mean, you should put it on the album cover, as a sticker that says for feline feline consumption only.
Yeah. I mean, if you really listen to the album, I promise you, in at least 3 or 4 of the songs, you'll hear cats in the background. It's I try to get them out of the mix, but it's hard to do sometimes.
On my end, it's going to be hard to tell if it's from the track or from your background. So we'll figure it out.
It does kind of sound like wailing cats. So
awesome. Yeah. Well, yeah. This is the first time we're doing a live listen party to celebrate the release of your album. So before we get started, I'll kind of give folks a brief recap of the format that we're going to hopefully attempt to do. We'll kind of give you an introduction, and then we'll kind of play each song track by track, and then after each song we'll just have a live discussion about what went into the song, what went into everything with the whole album. Again, just full disclosure for folks, I don't really have a professional musician background, so this is just going to be I don't know what you call it, the normal person's kind of perspective.
That's even better because listen, man, I don't even know when I'm making these songs. I don't it's funny because I'll make these songs and then I'll put them to the side and I'll be like, all right, done. And I'll go into the actually. So having to go back through and walk through these things is going to be it's going to be nice because I don't even know the it's going to be hard. It would be hard to explain the real nitty gritty of it. But I could definitely give you the vibe of what I was going for and kind of the approach.
Right. Yeah. Cause I said, for me, I love different types of music, but I've never actually been a professional artist to do any sound engineering or just instruments and stuff like that. So for me, it's just going to be a total just okay, I'll express what I felt listening to it for the first time. And I've kind of always wanted to do something like this too when it comes to other albums from my favorite artists, but I just keep forgetting to be oh, I should record my genuine first reaction.
This is a rare experience because there are almost everybody out there who is a lover of music ends up being a musician, and so to have somebody who is not a musician but loves music is I don't know, it's a fresh take because you're not looking at it through the same lenses.
Right.
A lot of these other people who are doing music, blogs or video podcasts and stuff like that. You'll have a different perspective, and the way you approach music is just, do I like this? Does this speak to me? Is there some sort of connection there? I really like the idea of that. I think that, in some ways it's hard to do that as a musician because you start to pick it apart, like
Right.
you know, like how this was actually created from, and then like I don't know. Do you know what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
Really?
I think it's the same perspective when, for example, when I do some kind of artwork or motion graphics, that getting it the perspective from like someone in the industry versus just like someone who just like likes it as an art form. Yeah, you totally get totally different feedback and opinions from people. So yeah. I can totally understand.
Yeah, and I'd argue, like, I don't know if you would agree with this, but like I'd argue that it's like actually that's the real like opinion or that's who I really want to reach, is like people who are like, who listen to it and are either, you know, they feel some way about it, like, and instead of being like, oh well, you know, this like 808 doesn't sound like it should sound like. It's like, what? Just like, do you like this shit, or you don't? I don't know.
Yeah.
I just or like yeah. That's my take.
Right. No, I totally get it. All right, so we'll go ahead and get into the first track here, and then afterwards we'll, you know, just kind of briefly do an introduction, and then just kind of just talk a little bit about the first track here. So the first one here is called All in Fun. That is correct, right? I didn't mess that up.
Correct.
All right. So yeah, this is going to be genuine my first time listening to it. So we'll be back in a few seconds here. All right. So that was.
You feel like emotionally scarred now from that?
I don't even think we can move forward with the next song. I think we're just gonna have to cut it here.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was All in Fun, and I think that was exactly what it in the track itself. It's pretty fun. I like the kind of like melodicness of it, but then it just kind of has its moments of chaos that kind of get thrown in. And I again, like, this is just my first, like my genuine first impressions of it. But I kind of like that just because it's like, again, I don't know if this was on purpose to kind of make this also like the first track, like, but I feel like it does kind of set you up for like what to expect for like to kind of set the tone is what I'm trying to say, basically.
Yeah. In some ways, this track is a lot different than the rest of the album. So this one, kind of like the inspiration maybe like that led to the making of this album was I had a stockpile of songs that I was working on. And I'd been working on them for like years and years, and they were just kind of like, they're cool, but they were kind of based off of like an old direction. And I don't know that I was like, I don't know. I wasn't super excited about it. So then I started listening to a lot more hip hop, and as I started to explore that and kind of go deeper and deeper and deeper, I started to like just really become super interested in like the composition and like chopping up samples and like how it just felt a lot braver than a lot of other music. So I decided to like, what the hell, I'm going to try to do some of this stuff. I even tried rapping. Nobody's ever going to hear that because it's like terrible, but it was a good experience. And it actually helped me to understand that style of music a lot more, and to really, really start to appreciate that stuff. And so this song was like kind of one of the very first attempts at like doing hip hop, whether you hear it or not. It's right. This is me. But I think what happened was like, so there was a song that I heard. It was called Kings by Illingsworth. And I was just like, wow, this song's so cool. And it took an old school song and it chopped it up and made this really, really interesting composition. And I was like, oh, okay, I want to try to do something like that. Right. I can't, I'm not gonna be able to do that, but I'm going to try to do something like that. But then as I kind of started to progress, I started to like, I think I always gravitate towards, kind of what you said, like the melodic mixed with the chaos. Like I've always loved chaos. Like one of my favorite bands of all time, I don't know if you've ever heard them, is Drive Like Jehu. Like chaos is just like, yeah. And I just it was kind of, it just came sort of naturally. I started like messing with the drums and I was like, oh yeah. I want it to sound like somebody is, like they're almost like they're two different songs playing at the same time, but somehow work together. That's kind of like I think it was an unconscious like direction that I went.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's the kind of beauty of it, of like being able to mash up the different, not only your favorite different artists, but to kind of mash up the different genres as well. And you can kind of hear it in that sense too, of just like having like a little sense of hip hop and then still keeping kind of like the melodicness of the song. And yeah, I think even like at the very end, it started getting into more of like that traditional kind of like drums and kicks that like people are familiar with, but it was kind of, it felt like you were just kind of like teasing it at that sense. It wasn't like kicking it into full gear with the whole song. It was just kind of like, oh, okay, it's like it's there, but it hasn't like ramped up yet, you know?
Yeah, that's that song originally was written by Jacques Brel, who is one of my all-time favorite. He's got like so much passion in his voice. But then the sample I use there is from Jacques Brel is Live and Well and Living in Paris, which is a musical. But it's like, it's something that I listened to on the regular, and I was like, oh, I'd love to like, I don't know that I actually said anything different than the original song says using these samples, but I feel like I did kind of make it something my own, hopefully.
Yeah, no, totally. I guess before we get into the next song, let's kind of like dive a little bit more into like the album itself. Like, so you said that this was kind of like a backlog of things, but what was like the overall thought process of kind of like taking some of those songs and then kind of putting it in this direction for this album, I guess? Yeah.
So I would say that actually, even though I have this huge like stockpile of songs that haven't been released, most of them were made specifically for this album. It was kind of more like this one here, All in Fun, was the one that was made before I decided to make an album. And it was kind of like, that's kind of what spurred it on, like, oh, I want to put this thing out. So in some ways it was like, this was the song that like, kind of like made the album. But what was the question?
Oh no, I guess in general I was just saying like, yeah, like was it a mix of the two where it's like getting stuff from either like your backlog or like a mixture of like backlog and creating like new songs?
So there are some songs in here that are from like my backlog that like there's a song later in the album. A couple, actually, only one of the songs was another like project's song. I was like before this project, as you know, I did Little War. That was a kind of when I started to explore just using samples in general. And so that is there's a song on here that was almost on the last Little War album that I decided to use for this, because I kind of looked at Little War as like that chapter's complete. I don't want to do that, even though there's like a lot of similarities in these songs. I just felt like I was like Little War in general was like almost like me learning things, which is great. I mean, and I think you do that with all albums of music and everything you do, right? But it was like intentional. Like the last Little War album was like specifically an experiment. Like I wanted to try to do this thing. It was less about like, I don't know. But anyways, yeah. So I would say that most of this is new, and it's in the inspiration or the reason I decided to make an album at all was because I felt like I was kind of from the outside looking in to something bigger that was happening. I saw a lot of other people that I really respect making music and doing things and putting stuff out, and I was like, okay, this is great. I'm supporting them and I'm listening to them and I'm making my own stuff on my own, but I didn't really feel like I was a part of anything, Right. I was actually talking to Trisha, my wife, before this, and talking about inspiration for this thing. And as I was explaining that to her, she's like, "Oh yeah, so you if you can't be in a cult, be a cult leader." I was like, right. Exactly.
Yeah. No, I can totally relate to that. I think the thing that people have always said, like, especially when I talk to like other artists, it's like they either want to find like a tribe of like their own or go ahead and just start the tribe themselves, just because of like, they fit into one thing, but not the mold to like so many other things. Yeah.
And sometimes you don't know, like there's already people out there doing something similar. You just don't know that. You haven't connected with them. And so by starting your own thing, all of a sudden you find out, oh, this isn't like super unique. Like I have all these, other people that I could be connecting with. And even just like, in the short time that I've started like my recorded psychic readings label and the Instagram and all that kind of stuff, already I've been like connecting with people that I didn't know before, and like and being introduced to a lot of music that I didn't even know before. So, and like styles, like I'm kind of old school and I don't know, I don't know, like even genre names and stuff like that, like these subgenres, like there's like so many now. And I'm like, is it punk or is it post-punk? Like, I don't know.
Exactly. No, I'm the same way, where like it's just evolved so much that it's hard to keep track. Cool. So I'm going to actually ask you more about the actual record label after a couple more songs, but let's go ahead and move into the next one here.
Sweet.
So this one is called Then We Go, and we will be back in a little bit.
conclude what they feel from the state of their institutions. I don't know if white Christians hate Negroes or not, but I know that we have a Christian church which is white and a Christian church which is black. I know as Malcolm X once put it, the most segregated hour in American life is high noon on Sunday. This is a great deal for me about a Christian nation. It means that I can't afford to trust most white Christians. I certainly cannot trust the Christian church. I don't know whether the labor unions and their bosses really hate me. That doesn't matter, but I know I'm not in their unions. I don't know if the real estate lobby is anything against black people, but I know the real estate lobbies keep me in the ghetto. I don't know if the Board of Education hates black people, but I know the textbooks I give my children to read and the schools that we have to go to. Now, this is the evidence. You want me to make an act of faith, risking myself, my wife, my woman, my sister, my children, on some idealism which you assure me exists in America, which I have never seen. The evidence, the evidence, this is the evidence, the evidence, the evidence, the evidence.
You get all your thoughts, you gather your thoughts.
Yeah, I have to like press the pause button twice after like doing the back-to-back tracks there. So we ended up playing two because again this is like totally free form. So the first one, I should say the second track was a little bit shorter, so we ended up just playing then we go, and then right after that we played Sunday Nation. Yeah,
that's right.
And yeah, so I'm gonna try to like gather my thoughts before I forget about the second track.
Okay.
So yeah, it was definitely on the shorter end, but it was still like I liked it because kind of what I said about the first track is like there was some hint of like hip hop, but then that one definitely was kind of like now finding like its groove into it, and then it kind of just led right into the third track where definitely
I felt like they were pretty good back to back. Yeah. So the second track there, Then We Go, that one, should I get your take first before I talk about it, or you want me to go ahead and speak to it?
Oh yeah. Like, so that one, yeah, I think kind of like I was saying, it was definitely blending it in at that point where it's like, okay, the first one kind of gave you that. And then this one was kind of like, it was like meeting us in between. But
gotcha.
It's like, yeah, if you meshed the first track and then the third track together, it blended like perfectly into like track two.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I think that's what it did its job with as far as like leading me
The
into.
bridge.
Yeah.
That one was that one actually. The way I worked on that one was much different than the rest because so my uncle died, right, and I was like. I want to write a song for him and I want to finish it today. So it was like a one day, wow. I'm just going to get in there and I want to write this thing, to kind of as like a send off. So it means a lot to me. It was like, really quick. And I feel like a lot of times when you do these quick things, you gain a lot more than if you like really, trying to pick apart something. I've had I've had some learnings with that where I just, I think the very first Little War album, I did this where I just like spent way too long on each song. And it's like, I've learned that, there's a certain point where you get those diminishing returns when you try to pick at them.
No, I agree. Like kind of comparing it just to kind of like creating traditional artwork where sometimes I think I've said this before on previous podcasts where like there would be times when in high school I would create something that was totally just like improvised, and in my mind I thought it wasn't my greatest work, but it was just more kind of getting the thought and like the idea out there, that it ended up getting the kind of like the most positive feedback from something that I spent like, I don't know, like a full week on, that I thought was better, but ended up not getting the same kind of,
There's actually a track on here. It's actually the next track that we're going to listen to. I'll speak to that, but just to because we're talking about this, that song, Cult Manager, is a song that I sketched, was never planning to do anything with, like just messing around. And then I listened to it, months later, and I was like, oh, I'm just going to, this is like almost done. I just need to like do a couple little things. Like, it's like, I don't know. It's something that you could easily pick apart, but you're just like, if you take a break from it and come back to it, you're like, oh, this is like perfect for what it is. You don't need to do anything more to it.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, there's definitely pieces like that, and I'm glad that in your mindset for creating that song, like, you kind of went into it with like a plan as far as like, it wasn't like an overly thought plan, but at least you had like a goal that you wanted to get with, kind of creating that song in that time limit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. So now that it's still fresh in my head with Sunday Nation. Yeah. So if the other ones were kind of like introducing you to hip hop, this was definitely a hip hop track.
This is like so inspired by, like, it was like basically like, there's I have I made a playlist and I was listening to it a bunch before I like even started working on like any hip hop. And I was like, this song is basically was born from that. But like, I mean, I just, the sample that I use in there, it's just so powerful. And I feel like I had that before I had like anything else. And I was just like, oh, I want to put this to something. And I was just like, oh, I'm just going to make this beat. But I do the little flute on the end there. I feel like, and the very end where it kind of like fades out. Yeah. That's like super like, the only part of it where it's like, I feel like that's kind of Pet Shop Boys-y.
It felt like I don't know, like a clock or something where it's just like ticking away. Yeah. It is. I couldn't really think of like the word to describe it, but just kind of like that ticking, kind of like clock kind of sound. What was the sample that you used in the first half of the song?
So that's a sample. That's James Baldwin. Who's, if you haven't read any James Baldwin, man, it was just, I felt like after I read The Fire Next Time, it was such a like, I don't know, as a white person, you kind of like, you think like racism bad, right? Like you're like, oh, racism bad, or some white people are not like that. But I feel like you don't really understand it. And like, I'm not saying that I fully understand the effects of it. Obviously I'll never understand that, but I feel like after reading The Fire Next Time, like it was something where I felt like, wow, I really didn't fully like comprehend or grasp like how this affects people and like the truth. We didn't like, we even, during high school or whatever, when I was young, we would how we had like the 1 month of history. It's like, it's like, you don't learn, like you learn some of the bad stuff. People, anyways, this sample to me, I feel like if I need to like reach out to anybody, I could play this and be like, oh, you can't tell me that this isn't powerful. This like, right. I don't know. So it's hard for me to go into. I just feel like I just highly recommend reading that. And like, I feel like the sample is very powerful to me. Like I listen to this and I think like, God, this like says everything that needs to be said, Yeah. Or I don't know.
Yeah. I would imagine like for me as a first time listen, like it's more of appreciating kind of like the melody going with like the sample. But I would imagine like on a re-listen, like after a couple of re-listens and just being able to kind of really hear the lyrics, or I guess not the lyrics, but just like the monologue, it'll definitely grow more into like that factor and like that meaning going into the song. But even then, just like kind of like hearing it meshed up with the beat that you did, it's like it was already powerful enough. And then like, yeah, if I kind of dug deep into it by actually like finding out what the words were, I would imagine it would be even more impactful at that point.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I mean, so far I'm loving all of them, but yeah, this one is definitely the one that you can tell right away that it's kind of grasping a little bit more at your emotions at that point.
Yeah, this is definitely an outlier in this this set of songs. Like, this is the only one that I feel like there's any kind of I don't know. Like, a lot of the other songs are kind of vague in what their message is, and this one is pretty straightforward, I feel like.
Yeah. I am just double checking to see when we get to for those who are going to listen to it on cassette, I just want to make sure I get it correctly on when you're supposed to flip the cassette at this point. Do you remember if it was after track 5 or track 6? I'm trying to look for the
side 2, an episode of Balance is the first one on side 2.
Okay, cool. So we'll go ahead and just play the next song, and I think what we'll do is we'll hit like a double combo and play track 5 and 6, and then from there we'll take like a slight break, and then but in that break we'll kind of just go over more about the record label.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and move on to the next one here with Cult Manager. All right. Yeah.
So that one, I was like, I think I was having one of these moments where you're having like a tough time trying to, you sit down, you have like a limited amount of time to like make something, and you're like, okay, I gotta get to work. And then I feel like that locks things up. You're like, now I don't know what to do, and everything sucks. And like, just like can't create anything. Oh man, I forgot how to play instruments. I'm just terrible now. But then I was like, I'm just going to explore kind of like old stuff that I've done, see if there's any, pick through there and see if there's anything I should like move over to something that I'm currently working on. And I found this like mess of a song, and I was like, this is amazing, because it's just so it's chaos, and it's like and it really kind of like brought like some I don't even know what I pictured when I heard it, but it was some like maniac, like walking down the street, and I'm like, and I was like, oh man. And then actually Cult Manager was what I was going to call Orange Dots before I called it Orange Dots. I just thought it was like such a silly like thing to have like a manager of a cult. He's just like, walking people through their like performance reviews or something like that. Making sure that they have everything they need to operate. but I just thought it was just ridiculous. But anyway, so I thought like, oh, this sounds like it would be like a cult manager, like just something that was like, and then at the end, of course, it's like chaos and it falls apart and everybody commits suicide. So
yeah. It's interesting because like, so for me, I don't know what it is where it's like kind of like off topic but on topic at the same time. So at work we were getting music done for like one of our games that we were working on. So one of the levels that we were designing was kind of like a haunted house kind of vibe. So when we kind of like got it contracted out, and then when the musician gave us like some samples, the one that we ended up picking out sounded similar, where it was using a lot of organs and everything, but like everyone else thought it fit perfectly. But in my brain, I don't know why, it's just like I always associate like organs just with like baseball. So like the whole time, like it definitely captured like the spooky kind of like haunted house vibe. But
haunted baseball game. I don't know.
That's what it was. Like every single time I heard it, like throughout the game, like it's always just felt like a spooky kind of like baseball theme. And that's kind of like what I got from there. But it's not because of how you did it. It's just because when I associate like organs, especially when they're played like that, it just felt kind of like happy-go-lucky like baseball kind of vibe.
To me, I guess it's similar for me. Like the haunted baseball game, that is like kind of like that. That's more like a lot of the organ stuff that I like to do or listen or not listen to. I guess I don't like sit down and listen to like crazy organs. I'm not insane.
I mean that's probably a genre now. Who knows?
I mean, I think it is. I just made it. But I love the organ, man. I bought an organ a long time ago, a Vox Super Continental that I just loved. Its name, I called it Ivan because it was just like a beast. Oh, nice. I don't know why Ivan means like, why is that? I don't. Anyways, but I love organ. But for me, it's like it reminds me of like growing up in church. But also, I don't know if you've been to the Stanford Theater in Palo Alto. They play like old movies, and they have kind of like the Castro Theater where they have the guy beforehand, the man or woman who's playing the organ. Yeah. So but you know, all those places can be haunted. Why not?
Yeah, I would associate it just they're two in one at that point to me. It's interesting how you kind of said like it's kind of like something that you had already done, because I think one of the trademarks that I remember hearing from your previous work on Little War, it's kind of like that thing towards the end of a track where it kind of has like that fade effect. It totally like reminded me of your work from before. So it kind of makes sense now that you kind of.
I think I kind of overuse that. Like it's just I feel like the ends to everything is either fading or chaos. Mm-hmm. And abruptly ending. Maybe I'm learning something about myself. This is, and you know what? Actually, that makes a lot of sense because I'm definitely going to have to sit down and think about this now. I didn't even realize I did that, but now I'm like, oh God, I need to have some like happy, like nice endings.
This is not only just like a live listen party. This is also like music therapy at the same time. So no, I thought this one was fun. It was fun, and it's just interesting, like hearing your kind of like backstory and just like what the meaning behind it was. But to me, it just it just sounded like a fun track on my side. Yeah,
it's definitely one of my favorite tracks on the album, just because it was just so like, you know, I'm just gonna make this, and then I was just past Sean was like, this is just garbage.
Yeah.
And then I listened to future Sean's like, oh, our future, current, now past.
What
I don't know. What
I always have to say at the time of this recording, yes, that's the time frame we're in. Awesome. So as I mentioned, we're going to go ahead and play the next two tracks to kind of close out side one of the cassette. This one I've already kind of listened to because this was one of your songs that you kind of put out there originally before releasing the album. And then so yeah, this is track 5 called Brain Gray, and then you're gonna have to help me out with track 6 here. So I think you're gonna have to like say this. So
yeah, that's glossolalia pop.
I'm just gonna call it pop at the end, just so that way
I gotta go, man.
Yeah,
this interview is over.
I'm just trying to keep it as professional as we can. So yeah, we'll go ahead and check out these 2 tracks back to back, and then we'll be right back after that.
Only to pass the final test, the test of courage. Upon becoming members of this society, you are immediately bound by the vows of obedience and secrecy you have taken as pledges. Any breach of these vows carries its due punishment, of which you have been told. You are reminded that acceptance of these vows is for life, and therefore not to be taken
tenemos en este lunes la luna transitando sí por los cielos en el signo de Géminis. Y para representar a estas modelos tenemos a Mary Kate y Ashley Olsen, que son gemelas. Hay mucha diferencia entre una y la otra. Lo importante es que la unión de ambas energías han dado y siguen dando y darán mucha luz en el mundo de la moda. Tenemos ahora a alguien muy especial, que lo es Jeremy Scott. Dice él que es Leo Virgo. No, usted es un Leo completo. Ha creado estilos que la gente continúa siguiéndolo, la que está brillando y seguirá brillando por muchos años más. Y ahora hay un caso muy sorpresivo. Anna Kay es una niña muy jovencita. Anna Kay se ha impuesto en 25 países y sigue ganando terreno. Anna Kay viene tocada por la buena suerte, por el talento, por la voluntad, la dedicación, el sacrificio. Ella se ha ido superando cada día más, se seguirá superando para brillar como tú en el mundo de la moda. Luego tengo a BvOOm, son pequeños BvOOm, pero tan grande como es el BvOOm. No le gusta la exageración en la ropa, tal vez me está criticando por mi ropa, pero a él le gusta todo minimalista. Él ahora ha creado un estilo muy andrógino y me parece que tengo que felicitarlo por ahora laureles, aplausos y reconocimiento. Hablo con BvOOm, fuerte, a partir de bendición.
I think that might be my favorite song of the album, honestly.
It's
my gosh. So chaotic and so like just like I don't know. Like that's it. I'm done.
Yeah. So
I don't do music anymore.
I'll briefly talk about track 5 just because that was probably the only one I've listened to before just because it was one of I'm just gonna call it like a single kind of before the album was released. So that one I don't want to go into it too much because like, yeah, it's like one of my favorites, even though like before listening to it, like I only had that one, but just right off the bat, like I think if you were to recommend, in my words, I would say until I listen to these next couple of tracks, Brain Gray would probably be the song I would recommend to someone who hasn't like listened to your stuff before, just because it does have that kind of unique blend of like kind of like similar to the first song, but then this one does introduce more kind of like that kind of like hip hop beat a little bit, but it's still very melodic, especially like the breakdown part that we were kind of talking about while we were listening to it, where it's like there's that part around the 2-minute mark where it just kind of like goes opens up and kind of goes into like that open spacey kind of like vibe, and then it comes back softly with like the melody again. Go ahead.
This one is actually probably the oldest thing I have on this album. This one was written in like 2012 or something that. Yeah, I wrote it. I kind of wrote it. Did I write it specifically for something, or I kind of like wrote it, and then at the exact around the same moment, I started talking with my buddy about starting up a synth pop project. And both of us were like, oh yeah, let's try to go like kind of the OMD like direction or whatever. And I ended up like writing these like really some interesting, cool like synth pop songs around that time, and some of them are like really solid. But this is the one that I thought like this would actually work with the stuff that I'm doing right now. Mm-hmm. So I took that and I changed it up a little bit, changed some of the sounds up, and I put the sample over the top to kind of like to kind of like tie it all together as an album. But like, that one is definitely different. That synth pop project that I was talking about, actually, there's talk about that actually starting up again. So maybe it'll actually come to fruition. I don't know, but I really hope it does, because there's some like really solid songs on that I'd love to put out. But I'm just, So, but this is an old one.
No,
it's actually, this was the birth of Little War too.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And stuff. Although I would say like this stuff is like, anyways. Yeah.
No, like I said, it's like, this one is the one that I got to kind of get like a template of like the visuals that we're going to have for the video. But then, on a couple of re-listens when I was just kind of just tweaking some of the visuals, like it definitely just like grew on me like by the second listen. Even though it's like longer than some of the other tracks, I think it doesn't even like feel it doesn't feel like it, just because of like how you structured the song, where it's like you kind of get it like different parts that break it up really nicely. So it kind of does just give it like an overall experience, it really does. And it is kind of broken up into two different parts. The first part does go on a little long, but I feel like that adds to like the space, like you were talking about, how it opens up, or you feel it a lot more maybe because of that. But actually this song, believe it or not, was originally titled Orange Dots. So this is actually the name of what this project is now. Yeah. It's kind of funny. Nice. I would say, like if there's one so far that I would recommend to someone, I mean, they're all sounding amazing, but this one will probably be like kind of the one to really kind of transition people over if like they want to kind of give you a listen for the first time.
Yeah, it's different than the rest of the songs on here, so they might be bummed out when they're
like, damn it, I thought it was all going to be.
Oh man.
No, I'm just kidding.
I think it works well with it all.
Yeah. All right, so track 6, man.
Yeah,
it's like
Lollipop. Yeah, what are your thoughts on that one?
This is the thing I wanted to like talk to you about that I mentioned is like, just so like I'm kind of just making it more general. I'll say like just the overall production on this track is like amazing. I think it's one of those things where whether it be a mix of just like mixing or mastering or whatever it is, like the way you're able to kind of like, I can kind of compare it to like Photoshop when like you're literally putting like layers on top of layers and you can visually see those layers. So I would say this song is like that one where you can do like the audio equivalent to it. where like you can hear the different like samples over each other, but they're never like colliding, and it's like it's really really well done, dude. It's really
cool. I don't know. It's sometimes that things just like come together. I don't know if I could say that was something that I I don't know if that was like entirely skill on my part, or more just like, oh, good, it all worked out.
Yeah.
But so this one, I hit up my buddy Mike Mercero, who I've worked with a lot in the past, and I just I really wanted to collab with him again. And I was like, oh, do you have anything like you want to any like guitar stuff? You want to like collab on something? Or I don't even know if I said that specifically guitar stuff, but he gave me this track of like this really cool like ambient kind of like guitar stuff, and I was like, oh, this is sick. Yeah, I'll use this, and then I actually the sample I used was Walter Walter Mercado, like who you actually told me, because I was talking to you about how like this album I want to like kind of like explore like the occult and the occult and kind of like bring that vibe here. And you mentioned this guy. I was like, oh, check him out. And so I listened to that, and I was like, and I found this one sample, and I was like, oh yeah, this is so, it's so like funny and silly. And luckily it had I don't speak Spanish, but luckily it had the subtitles there. So I knew exactly what he was saying. Yeah. I was like, oh, this is perfect, because it's just like, so I love the idea of like being psychic for like really boring, like weird, like celebrity things. Like,
it's funny because
I love it.
It was funny because like at first I couldn't tell what it was, and then after a while I was like, oh this is like Walter. But it's like it's interesting because like it's one of those things where I never like really understood like what he was saying all those years, but it's one of those things that it's just become kind of like synonymous to like when you have them like on the background, like either like my parents are watching to it or whatever, like it's just noise at that point, but it's him. And I think that's the part where I liked it, where like you introduce the track with him, and then halfway through when you started mixing like the other samples over it, like it kind of reminded me of that as my child.
That's so cool.
Yeah, as my childhood, because it's like the same thing. Like I would just hear in the distance, either coming from the living room or my parents' room, and then
this is that is kind of like what I was going for with this, because I remember I think it was you who was saying like this. Walter was a very big deal in like our family, and like just in culturally, and how that this was like something where he almost was looked at like as like a, I don't remember the words he used, or if it was somebody else, but like, I wouldn't say fatherly figure, but like somebody who's like part of the family almost, right? And I really liked the idea of like putting that, and actually at the end with sending a letter to Daddy, that song there, that was in response to him not being around anymore. So it was kind of like a in some weird way, like a shout out to him. Like it's like I don't know. I just like the whole like idea of him, and then and like what you were talking about really spoke to me, and I was like, oh, I really want to like put this together in some weird way. Yeah. And then I used we're talking about production. I used a technique that I hadn't ever done before at the end, where it has the organ part. I like took the original sample and I turned it into MIDI, and then made that an organ sound. But then I manipulated some of the keystrokes and everything too. So I did a lot more finessing on this one than I do on a lot of my other tracks. I don't know. I really like this one too, though. The composition and everything is like something that I'm really proud of.
Yeah, no, it definitely shows, because like I said, like I might be biased just because of that, of just like kind of having that in like my childhood, but at the same time, that's the vibe that I got out of it. But like I said, hopefully people can just hear that part of it when it does start mixing together, where it's like it just feels like it's layered correctly, where like it's not all meshing to like just make noise. It's like you can still hear both parts of it very clearly, and it makes it like literally like laying on top of each other at like the perfect balance. Yeah.
Thanks. That means a lot.
Awesome. So yeah, we'll kind of just call this like the halfway point where for those who are listening to it on cassette, we're gonna go ahead and flip it to the other side. But before we start going into the next track, I kind of wanted to ask you like, what was the kind of like inspiration to kind of create like this record label so far?
Oh, so this happens. Like I think most artists are going to identify with this. You have something you want to release. You don't have anybody who wants to release it. So you got to release it yourself, right? So I think I probably started like 100 record labels in my life just to put out one thing each time, right? So but this time I was like, all right, I'm going to put out this thing on my record label. Recorded Psychic Readings is something that I've thought about for a long time, probably since like the mid 2000s, of like having this record label called Recorded Psychic Readings. And then, but this time I was like, oh, okay, I'm in a position where I could like put out my cassette, but then I also can put out like other people. If I could just recoup a little bit of the money, I could kind of keep it rolling. And so I hit up my buddy JP, and I'm going to put out his stuff, BvOOm. That's going to be, the cassette's probably going to come out in October. And the online release is going to be like late August probably. So that's coming up pretty soon. That's my plan is I kind of actually am taking a little bit of a page from you where I'm trying to build up this a community, right? And like, and so I'm looking for other artists that I kind of gel with. Don't have anybody specifically in mind just yet for the next release. Although I have a whole another album of Orange Dot stuff ready to go almost. Oh, so.
Nice. Yeah.
Maybe like, that'll be 3.
There you go. I think that's the cool part about just like finding, similar to what we were talking about earlier, it's just like finding like that tribe of people where it's like, it's within the same space that you want to help like everyone kind of like prosper at that point. So yeah, I think that's awesome. Yeah.
I think that sometimes you have people who start these things who like have like certain ambitions or whatever to like make a name or money or something like that. But my sole purpose of this is to put out music that I like, that I want people to hear, and put out my own stuff and to try to build community. So hopefully that happens, but yeah, I don't ever want to make any profit off of this. I know that sounds silly, maybe not even believable, but I have zero interest in like making money off of a record label. Sounds like too much work that way.
Yeah, it's kind of like how you said, like the stuff that we're working on. It's like for the most part, we just kind of want to do it. Don't really want to like have anyone kind of like big brother us in a sense either. So it's just like we'll put out our wacky stuff the way that we want to put it out.
I saw something interesting the other day. Somebody said, we don't own any of our band's masters. And I was like, oh, is that a thing? Do people like own other people's masters? That's so shady. Just fucking like put it out, try to make your money back, try to maybe make a little bit more to like put out something else and keep that going. That's great. But to like own masters, do people do that? That's so shady.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously I'm living in some sort of fantasy land if I don't think that people are trying to, but I don't know. I guess I shouldn't judge. Who knows?
Yeah.
I don't know how things work in life. I just know what I want, and I don't know what I don't want.
I was just gonna say that. I was like, well, people can do their own thing. I'm just gonna like focus on on my thing and like people who are around me, and that's all you can really do.
For sure.
Awesome. So yeah, we'll go ahead and get started with the next couple of tracks. We'll go ahead and play them back to back here as well. So this will be track 7, An Episode of Balance, and right after that we'll play track 8, Deeper in the Thicket.
Deeper into the thicket. Yeah.
Thicket. All right. I just want to make sure I didn't say cricket. So
deeper into the cricket.
Yeah. All right. We'll be back in a second here.
hope and transformed. But neither path enticing. I remember a piece I read a long time ago in an old parabola publication about pathing, arches. These two concepts really stuck with me. Exploration, transitions. So I moved into the brush. I pushed further into the thicket. Still, there were remnants of mankind. Coke, juicy fruit, Pan Am stickers, spicy Cheetos, lifestyle farms, Greco baby carriages. So I said no, I must move further into the thicket, away from this world, away from the idea of world, you know? So I did. It became so dense that I nearly turned back. But I couldn't. My arms were cut, dented, bloody. Like the time I was found in a hailstorm while on horseback in Colorado, wearing a short-sleeved Julie Newmar shirt as permanent at age 12. I pushed on. I came across a body lying face down, and I reached in the branches until my arms were all but bone. And I turned that body over, and I saw them. And their mouth twisted in an unnatural way. It spoke to me. You know what it said? It said, "You are not so different from me." Of which I replied, "I'm alive, sir." And if this is true, then why are you dropping branded garbage in this perilous sand? And I fully reply, "Oh God, I must be dead."
And yeah, see,
Got into 2.
oh yeah, damn, I'm already breaking my own rules. All right, so yeah, those were the back-to-back tracks there with track 8, or I should say track 7 and track 8. We'll go into an episode of balance, and I was trying to make a mental note of like, it's hard to do when even with 2 songs, because you're just like, all right, I want to like remember my exact thoughts, and it doesn't help that like I've only listened to them once, so it's like I'm trying to like keep my thoughts. This one I like because again, I'm also just being biased based on like stuff I remember from my childhood. So this actually reminded me of a anime that I used to watch as a kid called Trigun. It's very kind of like steampunk Western inspired, and the music of it has kind of like that steampunk factor that reminded me of this song, where it's just very like I don't know, it like the way that they did the animation for that was like perfect, where like it fit that type of music, where I would instantly say if you were just to play footage of that anime with that track over it, like it would just blend like perfectly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I'll show it to you after.
Yeah, definitely do. Yeah, that sounds interesting. This one was, so I'm a little, I feel like I didn't do it justice because of my mix, but I really like the idea, and like I like the song a lot, and I like the idea of the song. And this one actually came about because at my work, I met a guy, Kurt Howard, who we kind of bonded on some old power violin stuff, Spaz from Redwood City. And we started talking about it, and we just, we kind of hit it off, and we were talking about, he played the drums, and we were talking about doing some sort of collab, and he gave me some drum tracks to use. And so I started, nice. I built it off of that, and it evolved over time. This might be a case of where I like spent too much time on it, and maybe like the original version was pretty cool. It was like, it's kind of like industrial, but this one, I like how some of it turned out. The sample there at the beginning is from Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and like I feel like the feel is exactly what I was going for. So I really like it, and the drums are off, obviously.
Yeah.
This is the only track that has like live drums on it, I believe.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Teeth Cutter might have a little bit of live drums, but not a lot.
Yeah. No, I can tell, like, based on like how it seemed more like freeform is the word I'm trying to look for, but it fit, like, especially towards like the end of the track, that you were kind of just like grooving, and just like it felt like it kind of felt like just like a freestyle pretty much. Yeah. And then what about Deeper Into the Thicket? That one, dude, like, as you can tell, I love the drums overall. So like, just like that drum pattern throughout the whole song, like it's just so good. And like it fit, of course, like the rest of the song. And then how we were talking about like the little like piano that kind of comes.
I thought, you know what, when I made that, I thought Fernando is going to appreciate this little lick, because it's so ABBA. It's so like, like, it's like, you were saying like Dancing Queen or something like that. It's like, but that sounds really weird. And I feel like I really like this one, because I wrote that piece. That's not really a sample. It's me like talking or whatever. But I kind of just wrote that really quickly on the fly, and then did the vocals for it, and then tweaked it down like a couple octaves to make it sound a little bit more to fit the mood of the what I was saying in there, the lyrics.
I was actually going to ask you that too. It's like, for certain tracks, is it that you kind of wanted to kind of go into that direction of like providing your own vocals for it versus doing like a sample? Like how does that kind of go into like your process at that point?
Well, I'll be honest. I got into doing more sample heavy stuff because I felt a lot of insecurity in the past with my vocals, to the point where it was like self-harming in a way. Like I just like would get obsessive about it and really depressed over it. And, people who have been in bands with me in the past, they even experienced that and saw me at my absolute worst. Right. My next album is actually going to be like 80% vocals. There's on the tracks, and there's a lot of singing. I think that it's just, I don't know. I feel like in the past like couple of years, I've been able to get past a lot of like self like insecurity and stuff like that. So, but yeah, that's kind of the reason why it doesn't have a lot of vocals. There is a little bit on this album, and then I think that doing these little like vocal things on this helped me a lot too, because I realized like I wasn't so like precious about my vocals anymore, which is good. So I was like, maybe I can do vocals. Maybe I'm past all that. And then so I started recording some stuff, and found like, I really enjoy this stuff. I like it. I think it's also when you're collaborating with people, it's like natural to be like looking for acceptance from those people that you're collaborating with. So
right.
If you don't feel like that they initially or really like it, you're like, this is terrible. It sucks. I should just off myself. That's the extreme, but that's like kind of where my mind goes. No,
I was just gonna say that I like it because like I think it fits where like when you do kind of like the actual original recordings for it, it fits like the song versus like if you, I mean, I would imagine you would still pick out like really good samples if you were to sample this song as well. But I think like the way that you kind of blended it in, like I thought like was like a really good mix where
I almost did it like a sample. It's like I knew what I kind of wanted in a sample, but then I was like, I'll just do it myself and then like tweak it to so it's not me, like not recognizably me, or but maybe it is. I don't know. Like, you know, there's definitely, after I listened back to it a couple of times, like, oh, there's definitely like California accent type thing going on there. So.
Yeah. I mean, you just gotta prove like your what's it called? Like you gotta prove that you're from the area at that
That's
point.
true. Yeah. You hella do.
You hella do. Awesome. No, I really like both tracks. Like I think again, so far the way that you've been kind of like putting them in order too, like I think just fit like really well with each other at the same time.
Yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into the next two tracks. So then we're almost wrapping up here.
Yeah.
So this is track 9, which is Teeth Cutter.
Yeah.
And then right after that, we'll be playing Blood Balloons. Balloons. I had to get the pronunciation right. Balloons. All right. We'll be right back.
Now, you take the human being. Here's a pretty package of brittle bones, delicate organs, and precisely balanced chemicals. All bagged up in a sack of skin you can scratch a hole in with your fingernail. Mark it fragile.
Atomic bomb flash could burn you worse than a terrible sunburn. burn you worse than a terrible sunburn, especially where you're not covered. You know how bad sunburns feel.
You can scratch a hole in with your fingernail. Mark it fragile.
You know how bad sunburns feel.
You can scratch a hole in with your fingernail. Mark it fragile. You can scratch a hole in with your fingernail. Mark it fragile.
Market fragile. That's probably going to be the one that's going to stick with me. It's just like
You can scratch a hole in it with your fingernail.
market fragile. Oh man. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. You want to talk about that last one first, or the
Yeah. Before I get too much into the fragile.
Yeah.
With track 9 in Teeth Cutter, I like that one. That one is what were the samples in that one?
So the samples in that one are actually some songs that I made way back in the day. I did this project called Shawnee Collins that I did a bunch of stuff and I never released it, and it's super poppy, fun stuff that's kind of inspired by like the group like the Chesterfield. I don't know if you ever heard them, or like Orange Juice and Belt and all that kind of stuff. So I have these songs that I really like, and I was like, oh, this one's I love the original song title of that song was called "The Ultimate Villain."
Oh, okay.
And I really like the idea of like taking this like song and kind of just meshing it in with something else that didn't fit with it at all, because it was like super poppy, and mixing it with something kind of darker. So it was one of the lines in there is like, I cut my teeth on the lunchroom benches, basically saying, like I got tough early on. That sounds super cheesy saying it out loud, but like when you're I just feel like when I was young, I had to like get tough at the school I was at when I was really young. So like, that's when I kind of learned to kind of stick up for myself or whatever. But I didn't necessarily stick up for myself then. I was bullied, but then like, but I learned like about that kind of stuff and how to survive in this world then. Right. Yeah, it's kind of based off of that.
Nice. Yeah, I think it kind of means like the same too as like the traditional sense when people say like you have to cut your teeth early. Like it definitely kind of has like that vibe to it when, especially when you break down the story to it. Like it definitely fits. I again, like it felt kind of just like it felt like coming off from the previous track, like with Deeper Into the Thicket, like it threw you off for a sense, but then I think right off the bat, then you started getting back into the groove. I was like, oh yeah. Then going into like Blood Balloons, then it's just kind of like, wow.
Yeah. I just thought that it's just so ridiculous to think about, like, the atomic bomb being something where you could just like, oh, I'm just going to sink a little shelter here. I'm going to hide in a corner and everything.
Yeah.
The idea of comparing it to like a sunburn, it's just like so silly. And then like, the whole like, oh, you're saying that somebody's so fragile, but then like, like, go into hide in a corner and you won't get incinerated or whatever.
Yeah. It's like if you follow everything by the rules, everyone thinks that everything will be okay and you'll be safe.
Exactly. That's it's funny how like even when I was a kid and like this kind of dates me in some way. I don't know if they still do it. Maybe I was always told that this was because of the atomic bomb too. When I was a kid, they used to have us do the duck and cover under the desks. They didn't talk about the earthquake. They didn't talk about earthquakes, which make way more sense. They're like, oh, you got to get under your desk because they dropped the bomb. They're telling us this as like 4-year-olds or something.
Yeah.
Was it even an issue then? I mean, it is, but like, did you need to like? I don't know.
Yeah. No, I totally get it. It's like I would imagine that things might have been adjusted now. Like, without getting to
now it's like super dark where it's like the shooters and stuff
that's what I was gonna say without turning like the whole mood like a little bit like darker. Like
thanks, you turned this dark song into something dark,
even darker. I think you're right, where it's like at that point now things have gone even a little bit bleaker is what I was trying to think of, but it captures it, but at the same time it's like when you kind of hear like the dancey kind of like track on top of it, it kind of gives it like that double meaning in a sense. And the style of it, I don't know. Yeah, I know you probably were influenced by different things, but for me it felt very like Nine Inch Nails like in some aspects of it, because it does kind of get kind of like industrial and dancey, and that's kind of like some of their stuff too.
I think for me, it was like the inspiration is kind of more like on the soft cell side, where it was like, what I loved about soft cell is that they managed to be dark and then also really poppy and like very popular, but also like have like an underground kind of aspect to them. Right. So I really appreciated that. And I think that's kind of where I was going with it to some extent, but like, I mean, that sounds great. Nine Inch Nails. I really enjoyed Pretty Hate Machine. I didn't really listen to a lot of stuff after that, but Pretty Hate Machine was amazing. Although I haven't listened to it a long time. Does it hold up? I don't know. I mean, check it out.
I'm kind of the same way. Yeah, like I probably grew up more on their stuff from the 90s. That some of the stuff that they kind of put out later it was harder for me to track. But it wasn't even just them. It was just like music in general that I wasn't like. Yeah. Same. Yeah. No, I love both tracks, and then like I think the nail thing is definitely gonna stick with me for a while, especially after if I when I listen to it more in the future, it's gonna be one of those things that it might be our thing later on when I'm just like
it's like The Shining.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's true.
Rad Rob.
Awesome. So we are winding down here. That we're going to go into the last track of the album here. I think we'll just go into it, and then we'll kind of just do like an overall like retrospect, even though we just listened to it. All right. So this is the last track, track 11 in Demon Tube. It's not quite YouTube. It's Demon Tube.
Yeah.
All right, and we'll be back in a second.
On a nice late summer night, early fall night, it's going to be a fun time. I like to wade into the band because you know what you don't get very often? Marching baritones. Here's one right here. Plus, you know I love the tuba. It's one of my favorite instruments. Listen to this.
You said that it's like getting into a tube with a bunch of demons.
kidding me?
That's not a tuba, by the way.
Oh, what is it?
It's a sousaphone.
Oh, it's sousaphone.
Did he get it out?
It looks like
it's
tuba
stuck in
at
the
first.
valve
Oh,
someplace.
no.
Oh boy, you're gonna get yelled at.
He's gonna have to buy that guy a new instrument. Oh, there it is.
Oh, there it is.
You said that it's like getting into a tube with a bunch of demons.
Oh boy, you're gonna get yelled at. Oh boy, you're gonna get yelled at.
He lost his mind down the
Oh man. I think you picked the right song to close us out with.
like that little like Tim and Eric's thing at the end where it just like this song is actually pretty ridiculous and like
well, okay, before you get into it, like I think overall, like now, yeah, kind of like this is kind of like a mix of like this last track, but overall, like with that album, like how do you go about picking like these like voice samples? Like, because a lot of these, especially this one, totally fit with like the theme that you were going for it. But like, how do you go about? Is it stuff that like you go and look for, or it's stuff that you already kind of like had in the back of your head that you've heard before?
I think I was collecting samples. I was just collecting different samples of things that I thought were like weird and funny. Part of it was like I was going down this one trail of like trying to figure out samples that kind of fit with like the whole like occult or cult kind of thing. There was more of a cult thing. I like really like the idea of like trying to like explore like cults and how like ridiculous they are and how like terrible, and also kind of like how I always want to be a part of one, the combination of the two.
Yeah.
But then I think that kind of led me into like I just, you know, when you start to explore one thing, it leads to another. And I found this like tuba, like one, and I was like, this is so so I took the other sample that said, you said it's like getting into a tube with a bunch of demons.
Yeah.
And like my mind was like all tuba. It all kind of works together. And so I was trying to fit it all together. Like, okay, what is this? Like, it's like this demon tube. It's like, what is this thing? And it's like, is this, so I think that's like kind of like the thread, and it kind of led into different samples and different things. But, and then the another sample I was using was a Sandy Shaw, this Northern soul singer from back in the day. But she like, there's like a lot of horns in that. So I was like, oh, that kind of works with it.
Yeah.
So just kind of like putting it all together. But another one where like, I don't know, like the mix is just not like, it could be so much better, but like, I feel like it accomplished a lot of this, a lot of what I was going for. And yeah. So.
No, I mean, I thought it was like perfectly mixed just because, like it kind of bounced back and forth. And I think whether if you were going for this effect or not, like during the parts where it kind of like shifted, like I don't know how to, like I said, like I'm not like a musician engineer or anything like that. When it kind of just like drifts into like that kind of like darker tone and then goes back into the melody, it definitely felt like it was like a demon like trying to like transform back and forth, but not like being able to like fully transform to the other side. Yeah.
So actually, when we were just listening to it, I started to get a different feeling. It's funny how like when you listen to these songs with somebody else, or listen to songs in general with somebody else, you have a different like way of approaching it, like mentally or emotionally or whatever. Like if you listen to it on your own, you might think of it in different ways, especially as the creator. But I feel like listening to it just now, all of these things that I was kind of like, picking apart like on my own, I was like, oh, it kind of works with the subject of the song and like how the microphone goes into the tuba and that's supposed to be part of the whole song. And things being a little louder and softer almost kind of make some sense in this like, this fictional, like weird story. So I agree how it kind of does kind of like, it does kind of feel like, it kind of feels appropriate on a lot of these things, the way they kind of mix and match.
Yeah. Like I was going to say, cause it just like the melody and that aspect, it just feels appropriate. And like, I think that was the perfect word that you just said earlier, like a story. Like it feels like not only this song, but a lot of the songs on the album that they just feel like they're each telling their own individual stories that kind of fit appropriately for that track specifically. And this one, like it definitely felt like one of those things where like you're grooving to it, but you're also kind of like slightly transforming into like one side of it. And in this case, like a demon, it just felt like, kind of like that feeling in general, where like sometimes people feel like they're living like a split persona or something like that. It felt like that, where like you're shifting to one side sometimes, and then you have to like bring yourself to come back to the other side, so to speak. No, I loved it.
Nice.
It was like an experience. Like it felt like I was literally like transforming throughout like the whole song.
That's awesome.
Awesome. Yeah. So that kind of does it for the album. And like, dude, this was like so much fun. Like I didn't know how this was going to go. And like pretty much like, I think it went as smoothly as it could go as far as
I had a blast. So thanks for doing this. I've been excited about this. And then, getting to talk with you. I mean, I love talking with you in general. So getting to talk about like myself,
that's the cream of the crop at that time. I was just gonna say, as like a legit like first time listen to like, because of course I've listened to all your stuff, but that's been on like my own time and just like not recording like a genuine first reaction. So just listening to this for the first time, other than like the single that you put out, this was like really awesome to hear from that perspective, and to literally get to sit down with you to hear like what actually went into each song. I think was really cool to hear, because now when I listen back to it after this, where I do kind of just listen to it like as like a full experience, where I listen it from start to end, and now I'll have like the context, and hopefully people who check this video out will also kind of get that thing too, of like being able to listen to it. And for other people, they might go the other way around, where like they'll probably listen by the time this comes out, like they'll listen to the album individually and maybe check this out, or kind of do it the same way that we just did it, where they'll listen to it track by track, but kind of get the commentary. And then when they listen to it, like how I'll do individually, they'll have like an understanding of like the meaning behind each song. So I thought it was really cool.
Thanks, man. Yeah, that was awesome. I really enjoyed it. And I think I learned probably as much about the album as you did.
That's how it goes sometimes. It's kind of like when you look back at like an old photo album like that you haven't looked at in years, that you've lived it, but then when you actually go back and look at it, then you'll pick up on some like details and stories just by looking at a photograph. So I think it's the same way.
Definitely.
Yeah. Awesome. So yeah, that will kind of do it for us.
So definitely for folks watching this, head over to the Bandcamp, recordedpsychicreadings.bandcamp, pick up a cassette.
Yes.
Because I got to recoup my money if we want to build this community.
There you go.
I'll probably still put stuff out even if I don't sell any, but I shouldn't say that. I mean, I have to sell them, otherwise I won't put out anything else. Or you could go to Orange Dots at Bandcamp, give myself and the label a follow. That would be very helpful. Spread this around to folks. keep an eye out for BvOOm coming out soon. It's awesome. Like I don't even know what to call it. It's like horror punk, but it's like pop punk, but not like pop punk. It's really cool. But that's like even the first track. It kind of reminds me of the Happy Mondays in somewhere.
Okay.
But anyways, it's really cool. It's like post punk. Anyways, I'm trying to figure out what it is while I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
It's really good. So yeah, check that out. And yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks so much for doing this, man.
Yeah, no worries.
Appreciate it.
It was an honor, and like, hopefully we'll do more of these either with your future projects or same thing with other folks as well that are interested. Because I think once we kind of like tweak things and kind of ramp up our studio as well, like it would be awesome to kind of get you, of course, like in person to do these. So it'll be,
like I said, be careful though. If you mention that you're doing this, every musician in the world is going to be hitting you up.
Yeah. I mean, the door is open, so we'll see what happens.
Nice.
Awesome. So huge congratulations again for you on this release. Like, as you heard it firsthand, this was like a legit like first time reaction. So I hope everyone does check it out. And all the links that you mentioned are available in the description box. So whatever you just said, people can just simple click will take you to all those links that you just mentioned.
Beautiful. Thanks so much, man.
Awesome. Thanks again, bro. And yeah, we'll hit each other up very, very soon.
For sure.
All right, man. Take care.
Hey, buddy.
Later.
Thanks again for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to catch future episodes.